The sound of my wife's laughter drifting through our bedroom wall at 3 in the morning wasn't what woke me up. It was the fact that I'd been sleeping alone for the past week while she stayed with her sister after our latest fight. So who the hell was she laughing with in there? I'm Dave Matthews, not the musician, unfortunately, just a guy who fixes broken air conditioners for a living in this dying mill town called Millbrook. 38 years old, married to Sarah for 12 years, and apparently stupid enough to believe her sister Linda had a family emergency that required my wife's immediate and extended presence. Standing in my boxer shorts in the hallway of my own house, listening to my wife giggle like a teenager, I felt something cold settle in my chest, something that had nothing to do with the October chill seeping through our old windows. I pushed open the bedroom door. Sarah was propped up against the headboard, phone pressed to her ear, wearing the black silk nightgown I'd bought her for our anniversary. The one she claimed was too fancy for everyday wear. "Don't worry," she whispered into the phone, not noticing me yet. "He suspects nothing. This weekend will be perfect. I've already told him I'm going to that real estate conference in Portland." She looked up then, saw me standing there, and her face went white. "I'll call you back," she said quickly, ending the call. "Family emergency over?" I asked, crossing my arms. Sarah's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Dave, I can explain." "Please do. I'm fascinated to hear how your sister's crisis got resolved so quickly that you could sneak back here for late-night phone sex with whoever that was." She sat up straighter, and I watched her switch gears from caught red-handed to righteous indignation. It was like watching a masterclass in manipulation. "You're being paranoid," she said. "That was Linda. We were just talking about—" "Cut the crap, Sarah." I walked to her side of the bed and held out my hand. "Give me the phone." "Absolutely not." "Then we both know what this is." The next morning, Sarah acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, kissed my cheek, and announced she was indeed going to Portland for the weekend. "It's important for my career," she said, not meeting my eyes. "The housing market is finally picking up, and I need to network." I watched her pack her suitcase. Along with her business suits, she folded in the black nightgown, a red dress I'd never seen before, and lingerie that definitely wasn't meant for real estate networking. "Have fun," I said. After she left, I called my buddy Tom Brennan, who runs the Last Call bar downtown. Tom's the kind of friend who asks how deep when you say you need help burying a body. Not that I was planning anything violent. I'm not a psychopath. But I was planning something. "I need a favor," I told him. "Name it." "Sarah's having an affair. She's going to be at the Riverside Motel this weekend with whoever she's screwing. I want them caught." Tom was quiet for a moment. "You sure about this, Dave?" "I heard her on the phone. She's been lying about staying with her sister." "What do you want me to do?" "Saturday evening around 7. Go to the motel with Mike Sullivan. Make a scene in the lobby. Act concerned about my marriage. Say you heard rumors and came to check on things. Be loud enough that everyone notices." Mike Sullivan was our third musketeer, a guy I'd known since high school who worked construction and had a voice that could wake the dead. "You want us to out her publicly?" "I want her humiliated. She thinks I'm some clueless idiot who'll just take whatever she dishes out. Time for a reality check." Saturday evening came and went. I spent it at home, watching Netflix and eating pizza, waiting for the fallout. Sarah came home Sunday night, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "Your friends are assholes," she said, slamming her purse down on the kitchen counter. "Which friends?" I asked innocently. Tom and Mike showed up at my hotel, making accusations, causing a scene. The desk clerk was staring. Other guests were whispering. It was mortifying. "Accusations about what?" She glared at me. "You know exactly what." "I know you said you were going to a real estate conference." "Were you not at a real estate conference?" The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. "I was networking," she said finally. "With who?" "People in the industry." What people? What are their names? More silence. Here's what I think happened, I said, leaning against the counter. I think you were at that motel with whoever you've been talking to on the phone. I think Tom and Mike embarrassed you in front of your boyfriend, and I think you're pissed that your husband isn't as stupid as you hoped. Sarah's face crumpled. For a moment, I thought she might confess, apologize, try to fix things. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and looked me dead in the eye. Prove it, she said. That's when I knew my marriage was over. That's also when I decided to stop playing defense. The next morning, while Sarah was at work, I searched our bedroom. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. A burner phone hidden in her jewelry box, behind the earrings she never wore. The text messages told the whole story. Her lover was Rick Morrison, who owned a CrossFit gym called Iron Paradise. The affair had been going on for 4 months. The messages were explicit, romantic, and included photos I wished I could unsee. But the real kicker was the most recent conversation. Sarah. He's getting suspicious. Tom and Mike showing up was too much of a coincidence. Rick. Maybe it's time to accelerate our timeline. Sarah. I'm not ready. I need to make sure I get the house and his business assets. My lawyer says I need more documentation of his behavior. Rick. What behavior? Sarah. I'm working on that. A few more fights, maybe some evidence of drinking or anger issues. I need him to look like the bad guy. I screenshot everything and emailed the photos to myself, then put the phone back where I found it. So Sarah wasn't just cheating. She was planning to frame me as an abusive husband to maximize her divorce settlement. The woman I'd loved for 12 years was systematically plotting to destroy my life. Two could play that game. I started with Rick's gym. Iron Paradise was new, flashy, and expensive. Rick was one of those guys who posted shirtless selfies on Instagram with captions about grinding and living your best life. He had perfectly styled hair, 2 white teeth, and the kind of confidence that came from never being punched in the face. I decided to fix that last part. I signed up for a membership under a fake name, paying cash. For a week, I observed Rick's routine. He arrived at 6 a.m., left around 8 p.m., and parked his silver BMW in the same spot every day. The car was his pride and joy. He posted pictures of it constantly, called it his baby. On Thursday night, I waited until the gym closed, then paid Rick's baby a visit. I didn't key it or smash the windows. That would be too obvious. Instead, I superglued the door locks, filled the air vents with shrimp, and zip-tied a dozen cheater signs to the bumpers. The next morning, Rick's Instagram story was a furious rant about vandalism and cowards who couldn't face him like men. Perfect. That afternoon, he showed up at my house. Rick Morrison looked exactly like his photos, 6'2", muscular, with the kind of tan that came from a salon. He was also clearly used to intimidating people with his size. "You Dave Matthews?" he asked when I opened the door. "Depends who's asking." "I'm Rick Morrison. I think we need to talk." "About what?" "About my car. About your wife. About the fact that you're acting like a psycho stalker." I stepped onto my front porch, closing the door behind me. Rick was bigger than me, but I'd been boxing since high school. Size only mattered if you didn't know how to use leverage. "I'm acting like a psycho?" I laughed. "You're screwing my wife and I'm the problem." "Sarah and I are in love," Rick said. "She's going to leave you anyway. You can either handle this like an adult or keep playing games." "Games?" I stepped closer. "You think this is a game?" Rick puffed up his chest. "I'm not afraid of you, old man." "You should be," I said quietly. Something in my voice must have gotten through to him because he took a step back. "Stay away from my car," he said. "Stay away from my gym, and stay away from Sarah. She doesn't want you anymore." "We'll see about that." After Rick left, I called Tom. "I need another favor," I said. "What now?" "I need you to spread some rumors. Rick Morrison, the guy who owns Iron Paradise, Word is he's been sleeping with married women, breaking up families, real piece of garbage. Is that true? Does it matter? The man's destroying my marriage. I'm returning the favor. Tom was quiet for a moment. Dave, you sure you want to go down this road? This kind of thing can get out of hand fast. It's already out of hand. Sarah's planning to divorce me and take everything. She's been documenting fake evidence of abuse. This isn't just about an affair anymore. She's trying to ruin my life. Jesus, you sure about that? I told him about the burner phone, the text messages, the lawyer consultations. All right, Tom said. I'll put the word out. But Dave, be careful. When you start a war like this, it's hard to control where it ends. Within days, the rumors were everywhere. Millbrook was a small town, and gossip traveled faster than bad news. Rick's gym started losing members. His Instagram comments filled with accusations and questions. Someone spray-painted "Home Wrecker" on his storefront. Sarah noticed the change in atmosphere immediately. People have been giving me weird looks all week, she said over dinner. Mrs. Patterson at the grocery store actually turned around and walked away when she saw me. Huh, I said, not looking up from my plate. That's strange. I think someone's been spreading rumors about me. What kind of rumors? She stared at me across the table. You know what kind. I really don't. About me and Rick. There it was. The first time she'd said his name in front of me. Who's Rick? I asked. Sarah's face flushed. You know who Rick is? I know a lot of Ricks. Rick from the hardware store? Rick who delivers our mail? You'll have to be more specific. Stop playing games, Dave. I'm not playing games. You brought up some guy named Rick, and I'm asking for clarification. What's your relationship with this person that would generate rumors? She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I'm not doing this, she said. Doing what? Pretending, acting like we both don't know what's happening here. I set down my fork and looked at her directly. What's happening here, Sarah, is that my wife has been lying to me for months. She's been sneaking around, making phone calls in the middle of the night, taking mysterious trips, and now she's upset that people in town are talking about it. What I don't understand is why she's surprised. You've been following me. Harassing Rick, turning people against us. Us? I stood up too. There is no us when it comes to you and Rick. There's you, my wife, and there's some guy you're screwing behind my back. Those are two separate relationships, not an us. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but I was done being manipulated by her emotions. I love him, she said quietly. Then divorce me and be with him. But stop lying, stop sneaking around, and stop planning to screw me over in court. Her face went white. What are you talking about? I found your phone, Sarah. I read the messages. I know about the lawyer, the fake abuse claims, the plan to take my business. So let's drop the act, shall we? For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked. Then her expression hardened. You went through my private things. You hid a burner phone to coordinate cheating on me. I think we're past worrying about privacy. Those messages were taken out of context. Which part? The part where you called me a pathetic loser, or the part where you joked about taking half my business even though you never worked a day to build it? Sarah wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. I want a divorce, she said. Good. So do I. And I want you out of this house. Not happening. My name's on the deed, too. We'll see what my lawyer says about that. Yeah, I said, smiling for the first time in weeks. We will. The next few days were tense, but oddly liberating. Sarah moved into the guest bedroom, and we barely spoke. She spent most of her time at Rick's place, which was fine with me. It gave me more opportunities to plan. My next move targeted their relationship directly. I knew from the text messages that Rick was insecure about money. Sarah had been lending him cash to keep his gym afloat. His tough guy image was built on financial quicksand. I hired a private investigator to dig into Rick's background. What I found was even better than I'd hoped. Rick Morrison had filed for bankruptcy twice, had 3 failed businesses, and owed back taxes on his gym. The BMW was leased, his apartment was 2 months behind on rent, and his Instagram lifestyle was completely fake. Armed with this information, I made some strategic phone calls. Rick's landlord learned about the back rent. His car lease company got an anonymous tip about his financial situation. His gym's creditors received copies of his social media posts showing him spending money on expensive dinners and weekend trips. Within a week, Rick's carefully constructed life began falling apart. The BMW got repossessed. His landlord started eviction proceedings. His gym's electricity was shut off for non-payment. Sarah came home in tears. "Someone's targeting Rick," she said. "His whole life is falling apart." "That's terrible," I said, not looking up from my newspaper. "This is your doing." I'm sitting in my living room reading about the town council meeting. "How is that targeting anyone? You know what you did. I know what I didn't do, which is cheat on my spouse and plan to frame them for abuse to steal their assets. But hey, we all have different moral standards." Sarah stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "You're not the man I married," she said. "You're right. The man you married was naive enough to trust you. Consider this an upgrade." That weekend, Sarah and Rick's relationship hit another snag. I knew from her phone that they were planning a romantic getaway to a bed and breakfast in Vermont. What they didn't know was that I'd called the B&B, explained that my wife was having an affair, and asked them to cancel the reservation due to a family emergency. When Sarah and Rick showed up, there was no room available. Sarah's phone blew up with angry texts from Rick, blaming her for the mix-up. Their romantic weekend turned into a fight in a parking lot. But I wasn't done yet. My final move required help from my friend Mike Sullivan. Mike was a good guy who'd been married to his wife Jenny for 15 years. When I told him what Sarah was planning to do to me in the divorce, he was furious. "That's evil," he said. "False abuse claims can destroy a man's life. That's the plan. She wants me to look like a monster so she can take everything. What do you need me to do?" "I need you to have a conversation with Rick. Man to man. Explain to him what kind of woman he's really involved with." The next evening, Mike paid Rick a visit at his apartment. I wasn't there, but Mike filled me in later. "I told him about the fake abuse claims," Mike said. "Showed him some of the text messages you'd printed out. Explained that Sarah was planning to destroy you in court and take half your business." "How'd he react?" "At first, he didn't believe it. Said Sarah wasn't like that. But when I showed him the messages where she called him her useful idiot and joked about trading up to a richer guy after the divorce was final, his whole attitude changed." She called him a useful idiot? Among other things. Apparently she's been talking to her sister about how Rick is just a placeholder until she can find someone with real money. I felt a moment of satisfaction, followed immediately by disgust. Sarah had been playing both of us. The confrontation came 3 days later. I was in my garage, working on an old motorcycle I'd been restoring, when Sarah burst in with Rick right behind her. "You son of a bitch," Rick snarled. "You've been sabotaging me from day one." I set down my wrench and turned to face them. "Hello, Rick." "Sarah. Nice of you to visit." "Cut the crap," Sarah said. "We know you're behind everything. The car, the gym, the landlord, the repo company. All of it. That's quite an accusation. Do you have any proof?" Rick stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists. "I don't need proof. I know it was you." "What you know," I said calmly, "is that your life is falling apart because it was built on lies, just like your relationship with my wife." "What's that supposed to mean?" I looked at Sarah. "You want to tell him, or should I?" Sarah's face went pale. "Dave, don't." "Tell me what?" Rick demanded. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd saved. Tell him about how you've been calling him your useful idiot. Tell him about your plan to trade up to someone with real money after you're done using him to get revenge on me. Tell him about how you've been laughing at him behind his back with your sister. Rick's head whipped toward Sarah. What is he talking about? He's lying, Sarah said, but her voice was shaky. I handed Rick my phone. See for yourself. Rick read the messages, his face growing darker with each line. When he finished, he looked at Sarah with pure hatred. You've been playing me this whole time? Rick, I can explain. Explain what? That you think I'm a loser? That you've been using me to get back at your husband? That you were planning to dump me as soon as you got his money? Sarah started crying, but neither Rick nor I cared anymore. You're both pathetic, Rick said. You deserve each other. He stormed out, leaving Sarah sobbing in my garage. Happy now? She asked through her tears. Getting there, I said, but I wasn't done yet, not even close. The final act came 2 weeks later at the annual Millbrook Fall Festival. It was the town's biggest social event, held in the park downtown. Everyone would be there, neighbors, friends, local business owners, Sarah's real estate colleagues. I'd spent those 2 weeks preparing. I'd had professional copies made of Sarah's text messages, her fake abuse documentation, and her divorce strategy notes. I'd created a simple website called The Truth About Sarah Matthews and loaded it with evidence. The festival was in full swing when I arrived. Sarah was there with her real estate team, working a booth to drum up business. She looked beautiful and professional, playing the role of the successful career woman. I walked up to the bandstand where the mayor was getting ready to announce the winners of the pie contest. Excuse me, I said. I'd like to make an announcement. The mayor looked confused. This isn't really the time. It'll just take a minute. It's about my wife. A crowd started gathering. Sarah looked over from her booth, her face confused. I took the microphone. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Dave Matthews. I've lived in Millbrook my whole life, run my HVAC business here for 15 years, and I've always believed this town was built on honesty and integrity. More people gathered. Sarah was pushing through the crowd, panic on her face. Recently, I discovered that my wife Sarah has been having an affair. Now, that's between us, and normally I wouldn't air our dirty laundry in public. But I also discovered that she's been planning to make false abuse claims against me in our divorce to steal my business and destroy my reputation. The crowd murmured. Sarah had reached the front, her face white with shock. Sarah, she called out. Stop this. I have documentation, I continued, pulling out the printed messages. Text messages where she jokes about framing me, calls her boyfriend a useful idiot, and plans to take everything I've worked for based on lies. I held up the papers. It's all posted on a website called The Truth About Sarah Matthews for anyone who wants to see the evidence. Sarah lunged for the microphone, but I stepped back. The point is, I said, I wanted everyone to know the truth before the lies start spreading. When Sarah starts telling people I was abusive, when she starts playing the victim, you'll know what really happened. I set the microphone down and walked away, leaving Sarah standing there in front of half the town, tears streaming down her face. The crowd was buzzing with shock and gossip. People were already pulling out their phones, looking up the website. Sarah ran after me. How could you do this to me? She screamed. I turned around. The same way you were planning to do it to me. Except I used the truth. You've ruined my life. No, Sarah. You ruined your own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. She stood there sobbing as people stared and whispered. Her real estate colleagues were looking at her with disgust. Her friends were backing away. Her carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said. But at least now we're even. I walked to my truck and drove home, leaving Sarah to face the consequences of her choices. The next morning, Sarah was gone. She'd packed her things and left during the night. I found divorce papers on the kitchen table, along with a note that simply said, "You win." But I didn't feel like I'd won anything. I felt empty, tired, and older than my 38 years. The phone rang. It was Tom. "Jesus, Dave?" "The whole town's talking about what happened yesterday." "Good. Let them talk." Sarah's lawyer called off the abuse claims. Word is she's moving to Boston, starting over. Smart move. "You all right?" I looked around my empty house, at the wedding photos I'd need to take down, at the life I'd need to rebuild. "I will be," I said. And for the first time in months, I meant it.